Let's begin. So we're going to first look at question 1 right here, which is a merchandising question. Right? So I'm going to actually read the question. We're going to read it together, and after that, we're going to go through the adjustments. Right? So question 1 here says, for 35 marks, says, assuming a perpetual inventory system, the following relates to Vermont Distributing Company. So they give us the trial balance for this business, right? Right. Then they said additional data at December 31st, 2012. 1/6 of the supply remained on hand. Note 2. 1,800 of the prepaid rent expired. Note 3. 1,650 of the unearned sales revenue was earned. Note 4. Depreciation on the furniture and fixtures is charged using the straight line method. The useful life is 8 years and the residual value is 1,500. Note 5. The business expected to make excessive use of the motor vehicle services in the earlier years of its 5 years economic useful life, when it was purchased on January 1, 2011. It therefore applied a double declining balance method of depreciation. Prior to the purchase of these assets, motor vehicle were depreciated using a straight line rate of 20%. Note 6. Accrued salaries, 3,100. Note 7. Accrued interest expense, 900. And the last note, decided to write off 3 customers' uncollectible accounts with a compound entry of $6,000. All right? So, first thing first, from this question paper, it says required, A, prepare adjusting journal entries. The first thing we need to pick up from this question paper, right, is to see how the trial balance set up, right? Normally, they can always mix up all the values in the trial balance, but most times they've already arranged it for us. So if you look right here on the trial balance, just looking back at the trial balance just for a second, from cash all the way to withdrawals, right? From cash all the way to withdrawals are balance sheet items. So they've already arranged everything for us already to make life easy for us. Then from sales revenue all the way down to interest expense, right, are income statement items. So we can just take note of that to make things easy for us when we're actually going through the questions in the exam. Let me go over that again. On the trial balance, right, from cash all the way down to withdrawals, right, relate to balance sheet items. Meaning all those items, we're supposed to put them in the balance sheet. Then, from sales revenue, everybody see where I'm pointing to, right? From sales revenue, from the question paper, right underneath withdrawals, this due Vermont withdrawals. From sales revenue all the way down to interest expense relates to income statement items. Is that clear? So they've already arranged them for us. They've already made life easy for us on this question paper. All right? Before they can mix up everything, but they've already arranged everything. Right? So it makes things easy for us to go through. So going back to the notes on this question paper, it said 1/6 of the supplies remained on hand. So since it says 1/6 of the supplies remain on hand, First thing first, let's first look at this here. Let's look at the adjustment. How much was the total supplies on the trial balance? 3,930. That's the total supplies on the trial balance, right? Then the question paper said 1/6 of this, right? 1/6 of the supplies remained on hand. So that means what? If this was the total that we had initially, and they said 1/6 of this remains, that means we must have used how much? 5/6. Everybody agree? So you have different ways of calculating this. So let's calculate this for me, please. This is the supplies figure on the trial balance, 1/6. Tell me what you get, please. How much? 655, right? So I have 655. They said 1/6 remains. It's like saying 1/6 remains in our storeroom. So if 1/6 remains in our storeroom, that means what? We must have used up the difference. Do we agree? So if this is the total supplies, and the total was 3,930, and this is what is left, that means I can just take out 655 from this. That means we actually used up 3,275. Check for me. The question paper said 1/6 of our supplies remains. Right? 1/6 of our supplies remain. Right? What was used up. So that means if 1/6 remains, that means we used up how much? 5/6. So in terms of the T account, let me just put a T account right there for persons who don't know. What kind of account is supplies? Supplies are what? Asset account. Right? So if it's an asset account, because it's inventory, it belongs to us, it's an asset account, what kind of entry are we going to have? We're going to have a what? Debit entry. As you can see, on the trial balance, the 3,930 is on the debit side. So that means if we have supplies, right, and it's on the debit side, 3,930. And the question paper said 1/6 of the supplies remain. That means we are left with 1/6. Just look at what I'm doing right here. If initially we start off with 3,930, and now we are left with 655, at least remains. What do you think we need to do right here? We need to credit this account, because the only way this can change from here to this figure is if the difference comes on this side. So for this account right here, we're going to credit 3,275, which is what you see in my journal entries. So we credit supplies, and because we've used up 5/6, right? Right here, if we have 1/6 plus 5/6, give us 1. So if 1/6 remains, that means we used up 5/6. Let me go over that again. We have inventory, right? We have inventory. Let's say we have 6 of these markers. We have 6 of these markers, right? The question paper said 1/6 of the marker remains. That means if we have 6 markers, only 1 is left. Do you agree? So if only 1 is left, that means what? we must have used up the remaining 5, which is 5, 6. Is that clear? So if initially we start off with the entire total on the debit side, and we only have 1, 6 remaining, that means we must have used up what? 5, 6. Is that clear? So if this account was on the debit side, we have to do what? Credit it to reduce it. Is that clear? So since we've used up 5, 6, we're going to debit supplies expense with a difference, which is 3,275, and credit supplies, which is what I show you right here. So I credit supplies with 3,275. Okay? So on the question paper, if I was in the exam, on the question paper, on the trial balance, when I'm making my adjustments quickly, before I start do up my journal, I look for supplies. I'm going to put beside it, after I do my calculation, 16, I'm going to minus the difference, which is 3,275 from the supplies in my trial balance, and then look for supplies expense down here and put 3,275. Everybody okay with that? So that's the reason why they left supplies expense blank on the question paper. So I put 3,275 on my question paper and put beside my supplies up here, I minus the difference, which is 3,275. Is that clear? Then I move on, and for persons who don't know, you're supposed to always write the debit entry first in your journal. So you debit supplies expense and credit supplies. Is that clear? Note 2 says 1,800 of the prepaid rent expired. What does that mean in simple language? What is the meaning of prepaid rent? We paid in advance, right? Just to keep it simple. Let's say this room right here, the landlord says we must pay from January to June, right, for the year, for 6 months. But we say, no, don't worry, we have money. We're going to pay from January to December. That means what? From July to December of this year, the landlord is owing us because what? We've already paid him too much money. Is that clear? Everybody with me? Let me go over that again. Just to keep it simple. Let's say we have a room like this. The landlord says we must pay him from January to June, which is just 6 months rent. But we said to the landlord, don't worry, we are willing to pay you from January this year to December this year. What does that mean in simple language? It means that we paid the landlord too much money. We paid him in advance, so the landlord now is owing us. Do you agree? The landlord is owing us. So, going back to this question paper here, they said 1,800 of the prepaid rent expired. What is the meaning of the word expired? It means we've used it up. Is that clear? We've used it up.